came down with the virus. That happened to the British Prime Minister and others, Brazilian president. What's stunning is the context in which it happened, the carelessness, the disregard for all the best advice from the experts in the context of the United States, unfortunately, leading the world in deaths. Roughly what? We're 4.5% of the world's population, and we're 25% of the world's deaths. And so what this does is it's reinforced impressions around the world of American incompetence and that there's something seriously wrong here.
And yet, it is a lot of the American companies that are coming up with solutions, as we've been talking about, whether it's treatments or vaccines. Do you think that changes the dynamic at all? The fact that a lot of the American ingenuity here is working overdrive to fight this thing?
For sure. And it shows, if that happens either on the therapeutic side or the vaccine side, it's obviously to the good. It's interesting, Sarah. One of the things people often say about India is there's two Indias. There's this modern, high-tech, middle-class India that's wildly successful, and there's this other India of enormous numbers of people in real poverty. In some ways, there's two United States now. We have this unbelievable, the great universities, the great research, these great corporations, but then we have this other reality of hundreds of thousands of people dying from disease. And I think, again, the two can coexist, even though they seem contradictory.
Richard, as we look at the election, do you think America's policy towards China will change drastically depending on who wins, or are both candidates kind of aligned now?
I wouldn't say they're quite aligned, but I think there'll be more consistency in the policy than many people understand. This is a relationship that's been deteriorating for some time. There's a lot of bipartisan skepticism about China's growing repression at home, its growing assertiveness abroad, what it did in Hong Kong, its mishandling of COVID-19, its theft of American intellectual property. So things are not going to change fundamentally. I think it's a difficult relationship going forward, regardless of who wins this November.
Do you think it's heading for some type of more blatant confrontation? I mean, there's been so much going on the tech side, on the virus side, on the trade front. How does it pan out over the next few years, no matter who's the president?
Look, the greatest place for confrontation would be military. It would be something in the South China Sea or over Taiwan. And then the challenge would be to limit any escalation. More broadly, I think the challenge for the U.S. and China is how do we deal with the inevitable areas of disagreement, whether it's trade, whether it is geopolitics, whether it is human rights. How do we limit them in a way that it doesn't preclude our ability to cooperate, say, on climate change or on dealing with North Korea's proliferation? And that's good. That's the diplomatic challenge. And it's not yet clear, Sarah, that both governments are up to that challenge.
Is China stronger today than it was 4 years ago, or weaker?
Oh, absolutely stronger. The economy is considerably larger. Its military is much stronger. So, no, you'd have to say almost by any measure, China is significantly stronger. Plus, it's coming out of COVID-19 in relatively decent shape.
If Biden does win the presidency, Richard, do you think it changes America's go-at-it-alone type strategy? Do we become more multilateral, whether that's joining the Iran deal or the Paris Climate Accord or the World Health Organization, all the things that President Trump pulled us out of?
Absolutely. I think you'd have a much greater willingness to work with allies. I think Biden is part of the foreign policy view that allies and partners are a great strategic advantage, and we should deal with the world with them rather than apart from them. I do think there would be an instinct to re-enter lots of agreements and organizations. But that said, Sarah, two things working the other way. One is a lot of these agreements and organizations are flawed. For example, the World Health Organization, the Iran nuclear agreement, Paris, the climate agreement. So even getting back into them in no way is an answer or a solution. Plus, secondly, President Biden will face a country here at home with massive challenges. And it will be hard to give foreign policy and international subjects the focus he might want to, simply because of COVID-19, the unemployment, the racial divisions, and the political division.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.